For many Americans, our national park system is a point of immense pride, a reflection of our shared heritage, and an appreciation of our natural wonders. But with America's 250th birthday fast approaching, it's also at the center of a fierce debate. Here's Jim Axelrod.
The peace and tranquility of Muir Woods, just north of San Francisco. Home to 500-plus acres of old-growth redwoods, make it just about the last place you'd expect to find a fight brewing.
The fact that they're taking down whole groups of signs about climate change and our nation's history is disappointing and embarrassing.
While it takes a lot to anger retired U.S. Park Ranger Lucy Scott, an executive order from President Trump entitled Restoring Truth and Sanity to American History did the trick, calling for signs promoting divisive narratives and corrosive ideology at national parks to be removed.
We're going to continue to fight climate change and protect the redwood forests the best that we can.
That included a sign Scott made to inform visitors climate change threatened the redwoods by reducing the fog they rely on for water, a scientific fact.
These are sticky tape marks from where the climate change sign was. The sign lived here happily for almost 8 or 9 years, and then the sign was taken down a couple of weeks ago.
Just ripped off.
Ripped off.
Another sign at Muir Woods was changed to conform with an Interior Department directive to remove exhibits that inappropriately disparage Americans past their living. The sign simply added more names to the timeline of the park's development beyond just those who donated the land.
The administration told us to remove the added stories. They erased that women helped, they erased that there was Native Americans here for the longest time. They erased anything but.
If Lucy Scott is dismayed.
George Washington was here. He did good work here. He also thought about how he could protect his property here, and that property included 9 enslaved Africans.
Alan Spears says he's flat out disgusted by the removal of signs from the Independence National Historical Park in Philadelphia. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Wait a minute.
They're gone. They were taken down.
Spears, a historian with the National Parks Conservation Association, took us to where Washington lived in the 1790s, and where panels from a 15-year-old exhibit about 9 enslaved people the father of our country brought with him to Philadelphia were taken down in January.
So this is a representation of the complex, nuanced nature of our history, and that's too much for some people to bear. They want a straightforward narrative that's uncomplicated.
So rather than have signs up that threaten the straightforward, uncomplicated narrative,
We'd rather have a brick wall.
While a lawsuit to restore those signs in Philadelphia works through the federal courts, at the Jamaica Bay Wildlife Center in New York City, a sign mentioning things we hope never to repeat, like slavery, massacres of Native Americans, or holding Japanese Americans in wartime camps, is among dozens of others taken down nationwide in response to the executive order. Sunday Morning has learned an internal government database now lists hundreds of signs, books, and pamphlets flagged for review.
Some of that history might make people who are visiting these sites think critically, and I think that's the concern from people on the side who want to restore truth and sanity. I think they just want a really sterilized experience for people when they come to places like national parks to learn.
Sterilized, whitewashed.
Sterilized, whitewashed, controlled, censored, all those words apply.
The Interior Department told us in a statement, the liberal media, including CBS, remains more focused on theatrics than sharing the diligent work of the Department of Interior to ensure truth and sanity are restored at our nation's monuments. We reached out to more than 30 Republican senators and House members. None would go on camera to discuss the issue of problematic signage.
You can't only focus on the warts, and then you can't cherry pick.
Brenda Hafera with the Heritage Foundation supports the review of the park signs. At Washington's home, where an entire exhibit focuses on his enslaved household staff, Hefera says that doesn't leave enough room for the first president's achievements. So for you, it's a matter of balance.
Proportionality, yes.
And that a wildlife center is not the place to discuss racism.
I think it's very important that not everything is political. That if we're going to a wildlife center, we're learning about wildlife. And that it's important for our country to have those opportunities to not be provoked to make everything political.
It's taking us back to a past that really didn't exist.
Chuck Sams was the director of the National Park System under President Biden and a defender of the sign-writing process that can take up to 18 months.
You want to make sure you're telling the most truthful story you possibly can with the best scholarship that's available.
This isn't a bunch of liberal park rangers shooting from the hip with what they feel.
It's not about feeling. It's literally about what is the scholarship behind this, and can you back that scholarship up?
The facts are important. All the facts, says this man who once oversaw our national parks and their mission to educate, illuminate, and inspire.
We have to self-examine in order to make sure that this experiment of our democracy, of our union, can only grow stronger. America's always strived to be better. And we can do that by learning from things that we do well and also those things that we didn't do well.
At any of our 433 national park sites, visitors can now scan a QR code to report signs or brochures they consider problematic. But as we head to our nation's 250th birthday, people like historian Alan Spears wonder why anyone interested in a more perfect union would want to.
If you are thinking about visiting national parks, but you don't want to tackle any of these large issues that make you think critically about race and slavery and gender and other things like that, you know, there are hundreds of thousands of places in the United States where you can go. Knock yourself out at Six Flags. But don't ruin it for the rest of us who have come to rely on national parks as places where we can go for that learning. We want to maintain their ability unimpaired to be able to talk about the full scope of our history, wonder, warts, and all.